r/NoStupidQuestions. Kiwipupus says, why do English people seem so much calmer than Americans? I'm looking for serious answers only. No fat or violent jokes please. Something I've observed is that in general English people just seem to be more chill and down to earth than Americans. No one is perfect, but huge public freakouts in the UK seem to be a lot more rare, and the children seem significantly better behaved and more well spoken. Which again, is a reflection of the adults around them. It also seems there are a lot less people who act radicalized. It's a little hard to put my finger on exactly what it is that's so different, but I'm assuming I'm not the only one who has noticed it's a completely different on a fundamental level. Why is this? Duinisi says, coming from Ireland, where we have a mix of cultural influence from both the UK and us, my impression is that us culture is much more hyper-individualistic. It makes sense, based on the frontierist history and ideals of the us, but it seems Americans have less of the collectivism that Europeans still has in parts, although this feels like ours eroding, which tempers some of that self-righteous emotionality. People might not feel entitled to outbursts when they feel part of something bigger than themselves. Thegri Test says, I agree, there's a difference between freedom for me and freedom for we. DJ Zerosh says, damn I like the way you put that. Individual freedom vs collective freedom. Huge Afachichungles 69 says, a lot of the UK's national identity is built around stoicism, maybe even Marizo the idea of a stiff upper lip. Probably nowhere else is this more evident than in the WW2 photo of the milkman delivering through bombed out rubble in London. Important to note, the photo was staged, meaning they felt this display was relevant. There are plenty more examples, see pack up your troubles in your old kid bag. The notion of British stoicism was at its peak in Victorian England and has steadily declined since then. Yet it lives on in subtle ways. Arguably, however, this notion of the English being more calm is likely just perception over reality. That caricature of the stoic Brit walking through rubble to deliver milk while the Nazis bombed their countryside influences our perception of them today. Maybe they aren't all that more calm than anyone else. r/NoStupidQuestions. Queen P. Rajiv says, how should I approach my doctor after a hospitalization due to a prescription he wrote me for a drug I'm allergic to? I have a follow-up Monday with my PCP. He prescribed a medication that contains a component I have a documented allergy to. Reaction occurred while hospitalized several years ago. 2 weeks ago I had routine blood work for an appointment with another physician. The next day I received an email, 2 calls on the landline, a text and 2 voice messages on my cell telling me to go to the hospital. I subsequently found out there was also a message on my medical record online service, my chart, the same record that houses my current prescriptions and my drug allergies. No one told me it was a drug interaction. However, the house doc and kidney doc were concerned I had already taken the med before I was directed to the hospital. They told me to stop taking the med and to dispose of it because I wouldn't be taking it again. They did not mention that the drug may be the cause at all. They suggested cancer and wanted to do a CAT scan. I refused. I had an IV and 4 blood draws and my level rose from critical levels to a below normal levels. I stayed overnight, but wanted to go home. Note, I had no symptoms. They did release me on Thursday and they called Thursday night, twice on Friday, and once on Saturday, to see how I was doing. Still no symptoms. Meanwhile on Thursday night I researched the compound drug I had been on for 35 days. Sure enough, the second ingredient was the one that put me in real peril in the hospital. And I had the 3 most serious adverse reactions listed by the manufacturer. The drug website said, if you have 2 of the 3 get to the hospital immediately. Problem is determination requires blood work. My chief problem is hypertension. One of the adverse reactions is low blood pressure. In the hospital my BO was 88/62. Normally 140/85. My PCP was not in the hospital. I see him Monday. I like him, and he saved my husband's life. But I really don't know how to approach him. Edit to at, I had blood work the Monday after my release. The levels were back to my normal. Ignore the results through my chat at about 1 AM Tuesday morning. Not one phone call from any provider telling me I was okay. My follow-up isn't scheduled until Monday, a week after the blood work. Hikian Pist says, you mentioned both drug allergy and drug interaction, so it's a little unclear what went wrong. That said, I'm surprised that your pharmacist didn't catch it when filling your prescription. Edit, typo. Queen P. Rajiv says, my apologies. I'm allergic to one component of the drug. There are many adverse reactions to the drug, 3 of which are dangerous. My allergy exacerbated the adverse reaction. I'm not a medical professional, so the vocab might be off. I know all allergies will cause an adverse reaction, but I do not know if all adverse reactions are allergies. Tal Ashrak says, not all adverse reactions are allergies. Mubatha Golden Sock says, unfortunately, no doctor has every minor ingredient of every drug memorized. Yes, the doctor should have caught it, the EMR should have flagged an interaction, the pharmacist should have caught it, and the pharmacy EMR should have flagged an interaction. That's 4 points of failure, which suggests either your prior allergy wasn't documented, or it was a very non-obvious interaction that most doctors would have probably missed. It's up to you whether to hold it against your doctor, but at minimum might make sure the new med is on your allergy list to decrease the odds of it happening again. r/NoStupidQuestions. Vegetable Infinite 764 says, has any sovereign citizen ever win a case? I'm from Canada, and wondering if there is any case where a sovereign citizen won a case. If I Chicken says, I'm sure there's some insignificant cases where they lost the case, but then won on appeal because they muddied up everything so bad that their case should have been deemed a mistrial or something gets thrown out. But significant stuff? No. Most of their arguments are complete bullshit, and they think that by simply strongly asserting statements, that it somehow makes it true. It's all an appeal to the sad part inside of most modern conspiracy theorists that craves to make themselves seem important or special. Like they've got some secret formula to get out of trouble if they just say their magic words. And everybody has to listen to them because they're super important, they're fully in control, the internet told them so. Shelby the Turd says, nope. Concise Pirate says, no, these are routinely rejected as frivolous, and no such case has been won in the United States. Psychosis Inducing says, if they did, they'd have to get deported. Doesn't matter where to. Sofsits aren't the sort of people to apply for a visa. Mr. Tillin says, lawyer here, I have practiced in both criminal and civil court for a little over 10 years, and I have never seen a sovereign citizen win a legal argument before a judge. That doesn't mean they have never won their cases. Sometimes the facts are on their side, but their victories are despite their ludicrous arguments, not because of them. Prolifer Panda says, sometimes, but not on the merit of their sovereign citizen claims. Sometimes, because they have long cases and nitpick things, they may point out some impropriety by the citing officer or prosecutor. I believe the YouTube Freaking has a few examples. I recall one was a guy who got a parking ticket, and in his arguments, pointed out the statute he was cited under only applied to certain roads. The judge pointed out he wasn't actually cited on those roads, and dismissed the tickets over objections from the prosecution. r/NoStupidQuestions. Soul Captain says, watching judo at the Olympics makes me wonder, why don't people get their necks broken when playing this sport? Obviously, I know nothing about judo, but it seems like an outrageously dangerous sport in that it seems very easy for players to get their necks twisted wrong and be paralyzed or even killed. I'm sure there are outliers, people who have been injured in this way by playing judo, but to my amateur eyes it looks like the Olympic pros are always a hair's breadth from a big problem. Maybe it's just harder to break someone's neck than I think it is. Sterling Phonix says, the first thing they teach you is how to fall. Boulevard says, and this is not figurative. The first classes are literally learning how to roll, to fall, to protect your head, and to distribute the force. Not to say accidents don't happen, but also having proper falls second nature is literally a lifesaver. Waston at 2532 says, I'm no judo expert, but I can guarantee you that learning how to tumble was the only reason I'm still a part of r/never broke bone. Scout Puppy says, because proper technique of throws. By holding on to the GI, you are making sure that your opponent isn't dropped on the neck. 96 Suok says, I see you know your judo well. Cleophas Randolph 1 says, get your hand off my thing. Zizal00 says, you don't get points for throwing people haphazardly, you get points for putting someone on the ground on their back or side. Part of determining if a move is point scoring is the deliberate movement of the hands or feet. Uncontrolled throws don't score. You'll instead get cautions or even thrown out for endangering your opponent. Plus, like others have said, falling training so much that you end up safe falling reflexively. You're not only trained to fall, but trained to fall in ways that protect your head and protect you from conceding points. Use of your head to defend from falling is also a caution as it endangers yourself, so if you're competing, even if you're determined to win at the cost of your own health, you'll not do that as it's a competitive disadvantage. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.